And welcome everybody to race 7 in France, the fantastic circuit that is Bernie Ecclestone's. Can't remember the name of it. Is it Castellet or something like that? Fabio, don't know. I don't know. Probably Castellet. Probably not. Paul Ricard. Paul Ricard. See, notice what I did there. I didn't speak English there. I spoke French. Speaking of French, let's just talk about Charles Leclerc. No, let's not actually. We'll give that a miss. But first of all, we will do the race review of race 7 of the 2021 FIA World Championship. So let's just get on with it. Let's dive in. Why don't we? All I can say is 5 lights, 4 lights, 3 lights, 2 lights, 1 lights, go! And of course, it was a fantastic start. Max Verstappen had a brilliant pole position. He got away really well, first into the first corner. Lewis Hamilton fast behind. Unfortunately, Max's front tyres weren't quite warm enough, and he ran wide. Bit of a Maxident, a bit of a mistake of a Maxident there. Let Lewis get ahead, but don't worry, fans. Don't worry, because Max was on fire this race. He drove an absolutely brilliant race. Lewis did pull away. Unfortunately, the butler couldn't do anything about overtaking Verstappen, but nonetheless, he gave it a go. He tried to stay with him, but eventually fell back as his tyres fell off. I would just say that mainly this race was about tyres. So that's going to be a theme, unfortunately, again. And I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it any more than you do, because I know you don't want to talk about it. I'm sure you don't want to talk about it, but nonetheless, tyres were a big problem in this race. Anyway, the race went on. Alonso drove fantastic. He drove his absolute socks off. Unfortunately, he ran out of tyres. Lap 17, the first pit stop started happening. Ricciardo came into the pits first. That triggered a whole set of pit stops. And the McLarens were the standout team, I feel, in this particular race. Nonetheless, mainly because they had a low downforce setting. So they were fast down the straights and able to do overtakes. Unfortunately, the other teams like Mercedes, AlphaTauri, and Ferrari all didn't go for low downforce. They went for conserving tyres, and that didn't turn out to be the right strat. So anyway, pretty much, unfortunately, Valtteri Bottas unfortunately flat spotted his tyres, and he was the first person called in. I don't know why that happened. That was probably where Mercedes lost the race, because that gave an opportunity for Verstappen to get past or get into the pits first ahead of Hamilton, which he did. He had a great pit stop, drove fantastically on his outlap, and when Lewis was finally called in 2 laps later, why it was 2 laps, I've no idea. But 2 laps later, Verstappen actually came out in the lead. And from there we thought, well, that's that then. That's about it. But no, Red Bull had something else up their sleeve for us, which made the race extremely interesting. And that something else was, although Max was able to pull away a little bit, he decided to do another pit stop because obviously he felt his tyres were running out, wearing out. And with the lower downforce setting, presumably he thought that he wouldn't make it to the end of the race with tyres like Lewis probably would. And therefore they came in for a second pit stop. This gave him, of course, the fastest lap and a hell of an end to the race for everybody as he drove the socks off his car, absolutely perfectly judging the wear on his tyres in order to catch up with Lewis for the last lap and overtake just actually the penultimate lap and to come through and win the race. Basically, he did a Lewis Hamilton on Lewis Hamilton. Who'd have thought? A fantastic race by Verstappen. He didn't really, other than the first corner, he did not put a foot wrong, and he judged it to perfection. So I think the strategy overall that Red Bull employed with the lower downforce, faster straights, and the ability to overtake really came into play. My feeling is that they'd always planned to do 2 stops, knowing that they'd probably run out of tyres with a lower downforce setting. and Mercedes really messed up again. I think they could have won that race if they'd probably played it either got Lewis into the pits before Bottas, in which case maybe Lewis could have come out in front, and then potentially he could have had a decent race to the end. Or secondly, if they'd actually pitted Lewis twice and put him on fresh rubber again, and then at least he could have either maintained the lead or at least been right just with Verstappen in order to give him a chance to overtake. Although whether that would have happened with Lewis's higher downforce setting and slower speed down the straights, I have no idea. Nonetheless, it was nonetheless a good race, a perfect race, in fact, by Verstappen, who, as I said, drove the socks off his car. Congratulations to him. Lewis must be very disappointed to be caught on really close to the end and to have run out of tyres when, in fact, he said, let's do 2 stops. This was a radio message that Lewis put out in the race. Let's do 2 stops and let's be the first to 2 stop. Unfortunately, Mercedes decided to eke it out. Both cars. A couple of little notable things happened here, which was Bottas didn't hold Verstappen up for nearly long enough. Otherwise, again, Lewis could have won. But he didn't have the car to do it. He didn't have the tyres to do it. So really, there was not much he could do there. But it does go to show, I feel, that Valtteri was probably a disappointing drive in the Mercedes, even though he technically, was just on par with Lewis during qualifying. So whatever happened in the race, I have no idea, but he did fall back. Standouts, of course, was, I would say, Norris, who also had a fantastic race, and with the lower downforce had many overtakes. I absolutely really enjoyed it because of Norris's drive. They put him on the wrong strategy to start with, but then he managed to outdrive the car and come up, overtake Leclerc, Sainz, Yuki Tsunoda. Who else? Alonso, Ocon. Just fantastic. I'm really pleased with the young lad. Ricciardo, a great recovery drive. He was also standout. And as I said, really, driver of the day for me was Verstappen, who got given a challenging strat and made it work. Boy, did he make it work. And in the end, it was no contest. There was nothing Lewis could do. So a great race. On to the race results. And basically, this is the French Grand Prix 2021. And it basically was Max Verstappen, as I said, in first place. Pissed off Lewis Hamilton. You can see by the photo. Pretty pissed off there. Third place was, of course, Perez, who again drove very well. A good Butler drive for Perez there. Valtteri, disappointing fourth, considering he had third nailed on, really. He was screaming on the radio to say, get me in, it's a 2-stop. Fifth place, a fantastic drive by Lando Norris, just ahead of his teammate Daniel Ricciardo, who pulled over for him to overtake. So a great result there for the McLaren team. And then on to 7th place, Pierre Gasly. Again, he's having a great season. He is having a great season. I feel he may be moving next year if he doesn't get what he wants. And I think what he wants is a Red Bull drive. So unless they're going to promise him a Red Bull drive soon, I think he'll be moving on. And I can see him moving on to Alpine as well at some point. Then Alonso, 8th. Again, Alonso getting the wheels under him, finding that car. Well done to Alonso. Great drive. We'd like to see him further up still. Then 9th place, of course, the Aston Martins of Vettel, who also has now got the legs of his car and is now going to presumably confidently outdrive his teammate, who finished 10th. Those are good recovery drives considering the poor start they got off to and the poor strategy. So well done to those two. And then 11th, Carlos Sainz, Again, difficult drive for Ferrari. They had the wrong wing settings. They tried to throw everything at qualifying, and unfortunately, that really paid heavily against them in the race. A really great drive for George Russell in 12th place to take them off the bottom step and to pass Haas in the championships. So well done to Williams. Congratulations, my favourite team, and well done to George. Yuki Tsunoda, disappointing race ahead of Ocon, who also had a disappointing race. Not much to say about those two, really. Young drivers, up and coming potentially. Giovinazzi, disappointing drive. However, having beaten Charles Leclerc, I guess he feels pretty good about it. Charles he went through tyres too quick. It was a real shame. He should have been further up for sure, but I think once they got out there and found he couldn't do anything on the straights, that kind of deflated the position that he was in. And then, of course, 17th was Raikkonen. Again, Raikkonen. I just think once they got out there and found the car was pretty poor, there was not much that could be done about it. Latifi in 18th place. Yeah, that's about where the Williams is. And then, of course, the two Haas drivers, Mick Schumacher, of course, ahead of Mazepin, who have actually had a little bit of a ding-dong this week between them. And I think there's, again in the Haas team, they seem to find two drivers which can't get on with each other. Surprise, surprise. Nonetheless, it was a damn good race considering. Exciting end, and I'm so glad that Verstappen won the race because now he extends the championship lead even further, and he extends it, in fact, to. I'm just looking it up. In fact, oh no, that's too far. He extends it to 19, 11, 12 points. So Verstappen leads now by 12 points over Lewis Hamilton, who is ahead of Sergio Perez by 15, 16, and 19, 20, 35 points. So that's more than a race. Ahead of Norris. Again, Norris. How brilliant is Norris doing to be up there in fourth place in the championship? I've got to say that's fantastic. Ahead of Valtteri Bottas, who has another disappointing race. And in fact couldn't actually do the strat that Mercedes wanted him to do. And again, I don't want to be crowing here, but I said after the next three races, the decision will be made. This is one tick against Bottas for that decision. So I think there may be a swap around if he has another two races like this where he's unable to do anything for Mercedes. He had a little swear on the radio at his team, interestingly enough. So again, friction building. And I, for one, I'm not saying that I really need to win this bet because I don't really need alcohol, but I would be definitely pleased to receive a crate of alcohol from Fabio. So there we go. That's it for me. I'm going to pass it over to Fabio now to comment on the alcohol situation and possibly the race.
Which you won't, because if it doesn't happen, yet, it's not going to happen. Anyway, the funny thing is that it makes you wonder how this kind of races makes you wonder. And I'm not taking a shot at Lewis, but I can understand people wondering how good of a driver he is when you see Mercedes doing this kind of shit in the race. Apparently, it seems to be that Mercedes is a great team if they have the best car. When they have to do actually something, they can't. I was totally blown away by the fact that when Max stopped for the second time, I would have thought at least stop Valtteri, which apparently was screaming, why doesn't anybody listen to me? That was a 2-stop race. Why didn't you stop the guy? Just one guy, And they didn't. So now not only they have problems in the Drivers' Championship, now they have problems in the Manufacturers' Championship, which is, really, really, really puzzling because, again, it makes you wonder what kind of a team Mercedes is when they have problems. And I mean, we saw a glimpse of the poor race management in Mercedes about 2 years ago, when in the first part of the season, when Ferrari was actually going at them. It seems to me that when they have a proper contender, they're just lost. They have no idea what to do. I mean, isn't our car the best car? Why it's not driving faster than all the cars? It is not possible, And they just fucked up. It's really weird. But yeah, I mean,
That, just to point out, that wasn't an Italian accent he was doing.
yeah. So yeah, what was I mean? It Thank God for Max Verstappen, because other than that, it was a pretty kind of boring race. I mean, there wasn't really not too much going on. I mean, poor Ricard is a shitty circuit anyway. So yeah, thank God at least for that. I don't know. Other than that, I mean, there was there was some interesting things to say about the way that all the cars but Red Bull manage the tires, and this has something to do with Ferrari. I mean, Ferrari was the extreme of that, but basically Paul Ricard is a circuit where uh, all the cars are we say they're front limited. So the the problem is managing the tire temperatures, and almost all the cars were actually front limited in that, meaning that the front tires were the one which were suffering more, and that we saw through all the cars, and Ferrari especially. um, the thing is that the car which won the race, which is Red Bull, funnily enough, is a car which is rear limited, which actually played really well, in those circumstances. So that was one of the reasons why they were so confident that, in changing the tires, they would have, make up all the disadvantage of one more pit stop. They managed to do that. They won fair and square. Tactics were brilliant. So yeah, I mean, and that thing is the main difference right now between Red Bull and Mercedes. Red Bull seems to me to be way more of a racing team in the race management kind of things, while Mercedes, they laid out plans ahead, but their reaction time is close to null. It seems to be that mostly all the teams, and this happens through all the motorsports. It doesn't matter if it's cars, motorcycles, whatever. Usually laid out 2 or 3 plans. So there is the A plan, which is if everything goes to according to what you're predicting, this is how you go. But then you have contingency plans, and the contingency plans of Mercedes seems to be non-existent. They it's apparently they cannot react, and that is kind of worrying, because I don't think that Red Bull is such a superior car right now. I mean, so it's not as superior as Mercedes was when it was superior, if you get what I mean. But they
Yeah.
can, but they really have that edge in management, so they can really squeeze out more performances just by race tactics, which is something that either Mercedes start to do that really quick, or they're going to be in big trouble. Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't disagree so much. I think Mercedes could have won that race easily if they'd done 2 specific points. Firstly, instead of pitting Bottas first, or when they pitted Bottas, if they'd pitted Lewis, I think that still could have been a win then for Lewis, because he could have reacted. He would have been out in front of Verstappen, And then when Verstappen pitted for the second time, Lewis could have reacted then and still at least come out either just behind or in front and potentially won the race there. It might still have gone the same way, but there would have been a chance at least. Or when Lewis said, it's looking like it's going to be a two-stop race, get me in before Verstappen, if they'd done that. And I think for this is back to the old Mercedes of not getting ahead of the game, right? Being reactive in their tactics and not proactive in their tactics. And that's where Red Bull really make great strides. They are proactive. I think that they went into that race thinking this is likely to be a two-stop, right? So let's take some downforce stuff. Let's not try and conserve the tires, right? Let's just go for it, and we'll have a fast car. So even if we are behind, we can still overtake. And I think they pulled the wool over Mercedes' eyes. I think team-wise, they pulled the wool over Mercedes' eyes.
I don't think it was that much of a of something that the plan had. That this is the only place I will disagree with you on that. I think that Red Bull analyzed the time that the cars were doing at the moment. And the funny thing is that if Mercedes just watched at what lap times was doing Max and what lap times they would Lewis was doing, especially Valtteri, they would have came to the same conclusion. I'm under the impression that the well, of course, they plan ahead, okay, because nothing happens by chance, but they just analyzed how the race was doing while it was going on, and they react accordingly. And this is what I meant by race management. It's not only what you can plan ahead, but you look at the scenario why it is happening, because let's not forget that one of the other things is that the track changed dramatically from Friday to Sunday. The lap times were way different. If you look at the lap times that let's take the one of the teams which went worse, like Ferrari. I mean, Ferrari had a really nice pace on Friday. So apparently something changed in the track. Let's not forget that, like for example, Sunday morning it was raining, so the F2 and F3 races, were under the rain, so the track changed, and so no, and this is something that you just know in the morning before the race. So it's not a plan, something that you can plan on a Saturday or on a Friday. So this is what I meant with I think they were way better at analyzing the race and all that stuff, and knowing the strength of the car, which again, it didn't seem to be that many problems on the front, like all the other cars said. They were able to to manage the race in such a way that that they were victorious. So, but it's not something like it happened and nobody could have realized that. Once the guy makes two stop, I can understand that you're still planning on doing one stop because you got data and whatever the fuck, okay, but the track has changed, the lap times are different, all these things. I would have expected that at least you have two cars, try with the second car and do something different, because what can happen, right? I mean, the worst that can happen is that your second car gets fourth, or gets behind the other Red Bull car, which is actually what happened. So, I mean, at least try and see what's going on. So that was really weird, but it's kind of a thing which seems to happen a lot with Mercedes. So,
well, it used to happen a lot. I mean, we haven't seen it in the last couple of years, really. But before that, it was often, right? Often. that they'd kind of almost throw a race away, or occasionally throw a race away due to bad strategy during the
Yeah.
race.
No,
Now,
but that sorry, that's what I meant. It seems to
hmm,
me that when everything goes well, there is no need for that, which is fine. But when they get under pressure, they just crack in really unexpectedly, and this
yeah,
is still
yeah,
a problem that, I mean, we saw it 2 years ago, and people said, well, that's the first time
hmm,
they're challenged, they have got to learn in that kind of thing. I would say, okay, I mean, they still have some internal friction when Rosberg was there, but okay, I see your point. It's a different scenario. They never found himself in that scenario. Cool. Okay, they didn't learn a lot from that time, and now that apparently they found themselves in the very same position, they're making the very same mistakes.
hmm.
So it's really disconcerting.
Yeah. I mean, I get why they did what they did, why they kept Lewis to one stop, because they had to bring, allegedly, as I say, Valtteri flat spotted his tires, so they wanted him to bring him in at first, so potentially to hold on to third place. But again, in past years, that was a big no-no for Mercedes. They know that that's an inferior strategy. They know it's an inferior strategy, and yet they did it still.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's going on there, right? Okay, it came out afterwards. They reckoned, well, bearing in mind we've been at this circuit many times before, we know that a 3-second gap is enough. That's besides the fucking point. That really is besides the point, because as they also know, these things are never, uh, they're never locked on. So I don't believe that is in fact the case. I believe that they compromised Lewis's race in order to try and get more points for the team, right? So in the constructors, because of
No,
course
but
that's their
that's
main thing.
no, but that's
And
what I said. They should
yeah,
not have tried with Lewis, but why not try with Valtteri? That was my my
oh yeah,
big
for the two
concern.
stop, yeah. But I'm talking about the very first stop, right? When they still thought everybody was going to be
The-
doing a one stop.
Listen, I understand the first stop.
Mhm.
I get that.
Yeah, I don't.
Because,
I don't. That's a mistake for me. That's a
well,
huge mistake not getting
I
Lewis in first
I
to
listen,
do the undercut.
I you know that I see as something that might have caught them by surprise. Okay, I can see that. Max made a really fast outlap. Sorry, before getting in. So I could have seen that. It's really difficult to react to that. So I'm not
Yeah.
really blaming
Well,
them a lot for that.
sure,
They
sure.
were
Yeah, but they
ahead.
shouldn't have been reacting. They should have been proactive there, right?
Well, but
That's the point I'm making. The very
no,
first stop was Valtteri.
no, but
That should have been Lewis. If that had have been Lewis, then
but
he would have had a 5-second gap over
yeah,
Verstappen.
okay, but that goes, with what I was saying before. It seems to me that Mercedes is a good
Yeah.
team when they're winning, you know, and
Okay. Well, they were winning at the time, and they threw it away.
well, yeah, but they were ahead. They were thinking, oh yeah, we are the machine, So
Yeah, maybe that was going through that. Well, I mean, that's what they said afterwards, but I don't buy that. I don't buy that. Right? They never would have let that happen a few years back when, yeah, okay, it was still inter-team rivalry, but it was always first car on track gets first call for the pit stop, right? And that shouldn't change just because it's against another team.
yeah,
And
it's
that's
easy
my
when you
mistake.
have,
They threw it
it,
away. They threw it
it's
away
easy.
by being reactive and not proactive. Another thing they did wrong is after Verstappen pitted, right? The rule in Formula One is as soon as your opponent pits, you pit. You minimize the difference, right? That's it. You minimize the difference. If you think there is definitely an undercut at this circuit, so whoever pits first has the advantage, right? So letting him go 2 laps after Verstappen, again, that's just rubbish. That's Mercedes throwing away the race right there, potentially. Now, as it would have happened, I still feel Verstappen would have pitted twice. That I feel that was always in Red Bull's strat. They never really thought about anything different. What they wanted to do was make it long enough to get Mercedes to go one stop so they could use that two-stop strategy into the best advantage possible. And as it turned out, it almost didn't work for them because, of course, the yellow tires, the mediums, which were in fact mediums this time, ironically, didn't last as long in the first stint. And so I think they were kind of hoping that they would last long. And he almost ran out of tyres, and Lewis almost managed to get the car home. But again, that's down to the setup of the cars, right? That's because Red Bull had a low downforce setup. And I think that's why they could keep their front tyres in longer than the rear tyres. But generally, the Mercedes was still the package to beat. Mercedes had that race if they'd wanted it. If they'd acted, if they'd proactively chosen a strat rather than reacting to Red Bull, I think they would have won that race. It still would have been close, but I think they would have won it.
I mean, if they would have won it, they would have won it. Yeah.
No. If they'd taken a proactive attitude to strategy instead of a reactive attitude, they were reacting to Red Bull. They weren't proactively going, right, let's get ahead of the game here. Let's pit Lewis ahead of Verstappen. That guarantees the win, right? That's a 7-point gap over second place. That's worth more than trying to get Valtteri from fourth to third, right? So again, I think they completely fucked up the race.
Okay, on that point, I don't agree. I mean, even if they stopped before Max and if they kept on one stop strategy, they would have lost the race anyway.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have had to. That's the point. If they could have, they would have afforded. As soon as Max pitted, they could have pitted a lap later still, and potentially
they would have never done that. That's the thing, because
you don't know. You don't know.
Well, I mean, they didn't. I know that they didn't, and they didn't. Not only with Lewis, they didn't do with Valtteri, which was, the logical scenario for them to do that. Looking at the times that the cars were doing at the time. That was something. Okay, let's make another stop for Valtteri and see what the fuck is going on. So I think they just played by their book, and their book was written in like on Friday or maybe on Saturday morning, and they just kept with that, and they didn't take all the possible variables into consideration. But I mean, that's just my idea. So I get what you.
I disagree. I disagree with that. I think it was before Saturday that they made their mind up. It was Friday that they made their mind
worse,
up. Yeah, it's even worse. I know. It's terrible. Okay, and I think even if this was my thing, right? That I think the Mercedes was better on its tires, right? And that showed actually quite heavily towards the end of the stint. The reason it was better is because they went for more downforce on the rear to keep the tires in.
Another thing which it's really bothering me about Mercedes is that they had the chance to look at another car, which was the taking the Red Bull aside for the reason I said before, because as I said before, Red Bull was the only different car in the old pack. The thing that Mercedes had, they had the opportunity to look at another car in the pack, which was actually the car which managed the tires better than anybody else, including Mercedes, everybody, which was Aston Martin. Sebastian made the longest run on those tires, and Stroll, got what 10th or something, and he started from the back of the grid. So if I would have to go and look at a proper at a setup in all the cars, I would have gone and looked at Aston Martin, because apparently they found something which was really, really, really effective with the kind of car they had. It's last year Mercedes, and the fact that Sebastian was able to actually make the tires last as long as he did. He made the longest stint. They could have got some really good information from them. And again, that was really weird, because it's basically their cousins, so they just
Yeah.
have to knock. They just have to go there and say, well, what do we have a caliper that we might give it to you. Can you give us yourself? That's the kind of thing that Mercedes does. So,
Yeah,
so,
indeed they do.
so yeah,
Okay, I mean, we'll just have to disagree here, I feel. Either way, I think one thing we can agree on is it was a great drive by Verstappen. He really
yeah.
made the strategy work, and congratulations to Red Bull.
Hmm.
And as I say, that this extends the gap in the championship, so it
Yeah,
makes it much more exciting. Every
yeah.
week this goes by, and Mercedes dropped the ball, failed to score the touchdown, to mix a metaphor and a half. Um, then it just makes this season more and more exciting. I
Yeah.
guess I just hope we don't get to the end and go, right. Well, actually, Max has won it with 6 races to go, so there we are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that'll be terrible. That'll be
Yeah.
terrible. And again, if we're still in this situation in 3 races time or 2 races time by now, I think Mercedes have got no option but to switch out Valtteri if he's not scoring
And,
big.
and, and Toto and
If he's
Toto
not
Wolf.
scoring big points, if he's not scoring big points for Mercedes.
Yeah, and Toto Wolf has already, put his hand ahead and said, yeah, we are already, really focused on next year car and blah blah blah, which I think kind of pissed off Lewis a little bit more, even because he's aiming for the 8th championship, and I mean, this year Max apparently has a really good chance to to grab that one. And if Lewis doesn't get that one this year, they have to hope that next year car is gonna be really good, because the reason.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I know. I'm worried. I'm
yeah.
worried for Lewis. I
Well,
really am.
yeah, I would
And
say I'm not.
you know,
I'm not saying who else has got one 7 world championship, but it seems to be that seems to be a magic number over there. So
obviously it seems more difficult to get past 7 than I was thinking it might be. But
yeah, yeah, yeah,
nonetheless,
yeah.
there are reasons. The last 2 circuits are obviously very difficult for Mercedes. This circuit, I think they vastly underestimated what they should have been doing. I think, and again, some of this is down. I have to say this, and again, you'll laugh at me, I'm sure, but then who cares? Uh, Basically, some of this is down to this 1 hour practice sessions we have now, because I don't think they're getting through the same long runs that they used to do before, and so I
No,
don't think they have quite the handle on the tires that they normally would have
I'm
in
I'm
previous
I'm
years.
I'm not going to laugh at that. Actually, my opinion is that I've been royally pissed ever since, what, 4 or 5. I can't even remember 10 years when they stopped testing, properly making the tests.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah,
understand it
yeah.
was for money reasons, but you get to a point where it doesn't make any fucking sense, because now they're basically making all the tests with simulations that uh, I, I, I'm I'm willing to say that that there might be some instances where it is way more expensive to run by simulations than actually doing the proper
Hmm.
test
Yeah, yeah.
on the racetrack. So I will dispute that. I would probably not go ahead in everywhere, but I'm fairly confident that there might be some aspects where I have a good point. So yeah, I
Mm.
mean, I'm 100% with you. I think that the test, the good old days where all the teams had a proper test team, and they were making all the tests that they wanted, where the golden rule. Now, uh, I, I think that there might be, that they might meet in the middle. Say, okay, I understand that might have been too much, but now it's
Yeah,
too few. So
yeah.
they have to raise the test times for the.
Yeah, absolutely.
They
Or
have to.
not, or test at a more representative track. That's another
Yeah,
possibility,
yeah,
because
yeah.
racing in the middle of a desert is not representative for the season as a whole, and certainly doesn't. or doesn't seem to have given them the data on the tyres that they really needed for this year to understand how the tyres are going to be working at different circuits.
Right.
So maybe that's because they don't have the same data that they do in Bahrain, where they tested this year, over Barcelona, where of course they've been testing for the last 50 years or so. Anyway, there we go. I think we've got a little bit of information coming through from the pits, so perhaps it's time now to go over to our friendly pit man and ask him. He's been at the circuit in France. How is France this week, I would say, and there he is. Yeah, so you're reporting directly from France.
Well,
Peter,
if
how
you,
is things?
if you look closely, you'll see I'm still in Baku.
You're still in Baku,
which is
Wow.
due to the weather. We had a lot of rain, so yeah, it was hard to get away, because that's when you live in the forest and don't have any decent roads, then yeah, it's going to be slippery if there's a lot of rain.
Okay.
But
well,
yeah.
I was going to say that's really saying something, because all I can say is for a Dutchman, the prostitutes must be absolutely fucking great in Baku.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you said that, because I was going to make that joke. I'm really glad you made that. So yeah, but I'm behind you, Simos, 100%. You know, yeah.
When he says he's behind me, I am actually charging him as well, by the way.
Yes. Well,
so
you know, let's say that I can understand that prostitutes in Azerbaijan are way cheaper than the one in France. Okay, let's put it this way.
Or Amsterdam.
And I'm way ahead of you already, because I did have a word with Toto, and so Toto made it clear in the press that they're not going to make any changes before winter. So that's where your alcohol is going. Toto's helping out.
Well, yeah. And we can 100% believe what any team principal tells us ahead of time. 100%. It's always 100% reliable.
Yeah. So, but that worked. Toto's a good sport. I told him I don't want Simons to get drunk, so do something. It worked. Sadly today he said it was a joke. He told everyone just before we went live, and he shouldn't have done that. But yeah, what can you say?
Yeah, there we go.
It's
well, again, I'm just saying I predicted in 4 races, 3 races to go, and if Valtteri doesn't perform in these 3 races, then I think they will change. And this is one race he didn't perform. So although this is a medium. This is a medium non-performance for me, not a high non-performance or a low non-performance.
I do have to say, I think Fabio did have a point last week when he said that they're going to tell Bottas that he's on his way out, because the outburst on the radio I don't think would have happened normally, because...
Well, okay, let me stop you right there. First of all, I always had a point, and it is a good point, first of all. So thank you very much, but that's stating the obvious. Second of all, I said, yeah, they would have given the go away, but the difference between me and Simos was that Simos thinks that they're going to ditch him in the middle of the season. While I think that they will keep it during the season, because it's Mercedes and they're the Germans. So they cannot do the thing that, I mean, how can Toto Wolff talk bad things to Dr. Marco and Christian Horner if he does exactly the same thing? He will never do that.
He said earlier in the season there's only one team that changes drivers mid-season, and that's not Mercedes. So I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay.
I don't see it happening.
Well, I think Valtteri might come down with a little case of COVID or something, and they suddenly have to.
Listen, man, you know, okay, if it happens for 1 or 2 races, that doesn't count. We need the official, you know. I mean, right now, Britain is really dry. You know?
I'll be happy
because of Brexit. So
I will be happy to send you some IPA from our mother country of beer. Okay. I say beer. I mean Moll's wine.
Do we mention the poor subtitling on the races? Because
Yes, go ahead. I
that
didn't get it, but please go ahead.
yeah, that was I think that was more of a running gag here in Holland, where they said the subtitles are really poor, the placement is really poor, and yeah, as you can see, uh, cars going past, zoom, zoom,
There
zoom.
they go, zoom, zoom. Yeah.
Once it hit Twitter, it just while watching the race, I couldn't keep my eyes off it and think, yeah, they got a point.
Well, I
They
can
could have
tell
done
you why
something
it
better.
happens. Yeah, I think it has to do with the new American way. You know, the it's the management from the US. You know that if you remember, when they showed the car and stuff like that, I think it was a couple of years ago that they really, I mean, it was actually really cool. They had those subtitles, following the car like on a video game with the name of the thing. And now in F1, they're getting there. Right now, they're putting the subtitles for the deaf, and eventually they put the name of the driver. But yeah, they're getting there.
Yeah, well,
I assume. Oh dear. There you go. Okay. Yeah. So yes.
I do have another question. Talking about people getting
Please.
changed mid-season. Anyone have
Mhm.
any thoughts about Yuki Tsunoda, whether or not he's going to stay or?
Uh, uh, that's a really interesting question. I think it's going to stay. I
Yeah.
think it's going to stay at least this season. It is going to stay. By the way, there is another elephant in the room that we haven't talked about. That I think is the Honda engine, which is fucking astonishing right now, and
Yeah.
I mean, Honda
I think
actually.
that's why he's going to stay. By the way, because it's a
Yes,
Honda
yeah,
engine.
Yeah.
yeah. That this is where it
Uh,
was going. So
oh, okay.
at
Big
least
pardon.
this year is going to stay. There is no question about it.
Mm.
Yeah, but the Honda engine is it showed to be really, really, really good. And there is another thing which I wanted to point out. Thank you for reminding me that is that Honda actually managed to win with in the other races, the proper one, the one with the motorcycles. I mean, Mark Marquez won the
Ah,
race with a Honda after
that was fantastic as well.
yeah.
Oh, that was so good to
So
see him out front, and
so
the way he did it was
yeah,
dominating. So
that was a very
really,
good day for Honda. So yeah,
mm.
And
so I think it's going to stay.
Honda promised Red Bull a nice parting gift. They're going to make a 2022 engine, and that's going to be the gift to Red Bull at the end of the season. So
Thi- Okay, this is really weird because this is actually what Honda does every fucking time. It had happened with Braun,
Mhm.
too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They
Mhm.
spend a shitload amount of money, like a gazillion billion dollars. They get no results, and then they say, "Oh yeah, fuck, we're gonna leave." And just when they're leaving, they make the proper one, and they give it away. So it's totally insane. But that apparently is the only way of doing stuff.
Yes. So, can anybody remember how much Ross Brawn paid for the Honda team?
I don't know, £2 maybe.
yeah,
Yeah,
it wasn't much.
$1.
Yeah,
$1.
Yeah, okay.
$1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone know how much he sold it for?
Well, more than one, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, no, several millions of dollars,
Yeah.
shall we say,
Yeah.
in the region of $60 million.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
he did manage to get the
Ross Brown has a
championship.
house.
So
Well, Ross Brown has a house not far from where I live in a very expensive area. So I'm not.
Not surprised.
I can understand that he sold it for a lot of money.
Mhm. Yeah. Again, just Honda. I mean, what are they like? What are they like? However, I mean, the other side of it is, of course, Tag Heuer, which is a Red Bull affiliate, have done engines in the past, and they are very good at doing them. So I've got no reason to believe that this won't continue for some years to come now. And with Tag tuning the engines, tuning the Honda engines, and also with Adrian Newey doing the aero. I think we might be set for a number of years if it goes this way this year for Red Bull being at the front again. So that's going to be exciting to watch, to see whether Ferrari or Mercedes can possibly catch up with the Adrian Newey designs again.
It's going to be interesting because they're going to be the new cars. They're going to stay for quite some time. So next year is going to really be make it or break it, because again if you make a
4
good
years,
car,
yeah, we've got 4 years to go on this, and apparently there are no more engine upgrades till 2025 or 2026 season. So I mean, I think if Honda managed to get out there in front, which is probably why they've put in this extra effort, apart from potentially receiving some compensation from Red Bull.
no, but Peter is right. When he said they're going to give a parting gift. Apparently they're developing a new engine which is going to run next year, and on the engine front, it's kind of exciting. I don't know what Mercedes is going to do. I haven't got too many news on that front.
I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, there was some really, really, really interesting news on the Ferrari front, where they apparently run 2 different configuration of engines, and they at the beginning they were going to go with one configuration which was more conservative, and the other one which was a little bit more extreme, had some issues, but in the last weeks they had some really good results from the more extreme engine, and they decided to go with that configuration, which I mean it's going to be, I'm all for it. Fuck it.
Yeah,
again,
I
make
would
it or
be.
break
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, I right at the moment, it would help Mercedes to have Ferrari up there. Just taking points away from potentially taking points away from the second driver, and just leaving the 2 main drivers out in front to do their stuff.
But you see, I mean, Toto Wolff has managed to piss off basically everybody.
But, yeah.
but Mr. Stroll, in the recent years. So I think that if he's looking for somebody to give him a helping hand, he's shit out of luck, and that includes McLaren. Goes to say, yeah, you're gonna buy you the edges, but fuck it.
Yeah, I'm not too bothered personally. I think I think it's all much of a muchness. I think those 2 cars are fairly identical right now, and as long as Red Bull keep pulling out tactical and strategic jump aces from the back, which I've got no reason to believe they won't, because let's face it, that is another Red Bull a Red Bull ace card to play.
Yeah.
They've always been good at picking strategies ahead of time and making them work. So I think we've got a real fight on our hands this year, and like we said many races ago, and it's just becoming more obvious and more obvious. So maybe when we get to a track which is higher deg on the tires and rear limited, perhaps then Mercedes might swing back some advantage. But boy, am I clutching at straws by saying that.
It's problematic because it seems to me that all the cars have problems with it. It's not a problem of reaching the tight temperatures, but they've got problems of maintaining the tight temperatures, and this seems to be a characteristic of the cars, not the tires.
Absolutely, the chassis, more importantly,
yeah. So and again, from a technical point of view, it's really interesting. I mean, we didn't delve into that, and I don't want to do that because it's really late, but there's some really there's some really interesting aspects to look into about the fact that some cars are more have got some more aero traction, and some cars have a more efficient mechanical traction. And that again seems to be another aspect that makes a difference between the cars. So
Yeah, very much so. Certainly, how they hold the temperature in the tires is crucial. And if we remember back, Mercedes' little toys have all been taken away one by one. Firstly, the blown tire rims
Right.
that Mercedes used to control the temperature of their tires
Mhm.
with, and of course, then DAS the year after has been
Yeah.
taken away. So I feel for Mercedes in that respect. But
I
that's
don't.
Formula. I know you don't, because
Fuck them. Yeah.
yeah, you would say that whatever though, because
Oh yeah.
they're the team that have been beating Ferrari the most. So of course, I understand you might be saying that, but I'm saying it for a slightly different reason, which is of course not Lewis Hamilton. No, nothing to do with Lewis, but more to do with the fairness of Formula One, and this is what
The
it's about.
fairness of Formula One.
It's
That should be.
this is
That
what
should
it's about. This
That
is
is
what it's about,
that is
Fabio.
non-existent. There's no fairness in Formula
Yeah.
One. There isn't.
Yeah, I know there isn't in Europe, but a lot of teams, a lot of the British teams like
Peter,
McLaren,
I want an
Williams,
investigation right now for because the
Simos.
fairness of Formula One.
Well, no,
Actually-
the British teams.
Actually,
the-
if you have a 10 positions penalty on the grid for Simons for saying that shit,
let me finish saying the shit then, at least, right? The British teams,
I will make
like
that for
Williams,
I will make that
like
for the next show.
McLaren, like Mercedes,
Oh,
right?
there you go.
They all play.
Mercedes is a British team.
They
Okay,
all- They all play 100% fair. All right, it's the foreign teams, right?
Yeah, McLaren, yes.
Like it's the foreign teams like Ferrari.
No. Hold on a second. You said McLaren plays fair, really?
Well, kind of, yeah.
Oh no. No.
You're not going to
You-
bring up
Listen,
Spygate, are you?
You specifically mentioned McLaren and Williams. Okay, listen. If you said Lotus, I would have give you that. But you said McLaren and Williams.
Oh,
okay.
Lotus for a French team, though. Oh my God.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh dear, you can't
Carry
keep up
on.
with them. You can't keep up with them, can you? Yeah, no,
well-
fair enough. And of course, Red Bull
Listen,
are a British team.
here's
so-
the shovel. Keep
There you are.
digging.
No, I'm happy to dig away. I'm happy to dig away. And that's just what I'm here for. I'll be honest with you. So yeah, there you go.
I do have one point. Any thoughts on on exchanging the chassis on the Mercedes, which Toto said was a planned change, and then Nico Rosberg said that never happened.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
was. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Simons. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's never happened.
No.
This is the first year, so I'm presuming that they were doing it because they really don't know what is wrong with the car. They know something is badly wrong, and this was a desperation move. So they wanted to find out whether the chassis were actually playing a part, and whether the other driver could get them to work. Because Lewis seems to be getting the better out of the Mercedes than Valtteri is. So I'm guessing that they decided to change the chassis to see if it really was Lewis or whether it was the chassis, Lewis's chassis, which was better. And I think that's been comprehensively answered this weekend. Go ahead, Fabio.
That was the stupidest move I've ever seen in all my career and all my life of watching and being involved in motorsport. That makes no sense whatsoever for a lot of reasons. But I will just say the stupidest reason of all is that they decided to listen to Valtteri Bottas on something which doesn't make any sense at all. But they didn't listen to Valtteri when he said that it was a 2 pit stop race in the race. So again, that was
Before the race.
that was amazing. It makes no sense whatsoever. Like literally no sense.
Well, again, the only way I can make sense of it is to say Mercedes are at sea. They don't know what's wrong. And this is a desperation move to see if Lewis can get the same out of Valtteri's chassis and Valtteri can get the same out of Lewis's chassis. And they found the answer conclusively, which is no, it's not the chassis. Both chassis are shit.
So okay, but here's my theory. it could
I
also
say
be.
shit.
It could also be because they didn't put back in the chassis that Valtteri was driving with. Lewis got a different chassis from Valtteri, not the one that he complained about. It could be that they're giving this to Bottas in order to say at some point, well, you complained about the chassis. It wasn't the chassis, it was you, and we're going to bring in
And-
Russell.
And that's even
That's
more
possible.
bizarre. Yeah, but that's even more stupid if you think about it. Because so in order
Even.
in order for Mercedes to point out that Lewis Hamilton is a better driver than Valtteri Bottas, they have to change the chassis. Really, they could have phoned me. I could have told them. They could have, saved a lot of money. Say, listen, you don't need to do that. That guy is a butler, and the other guy is a racing driver. That's as simple as that. I mean, it's uncanny, Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, that it is a good point there, and I would say it's unlikely because they would sack him regardless of whether they don't need an excuse. They really don't need an excuse. It's cheap. It's cheap money for Mercedes. But I do think that there's a reason why they did it because, like you perfectly pointed out, they haven't done that before. So why would they suddenly start doing it this season? Well, they would suddenly do it this season if there was a problem with the car. If there was a genuine problem with the car, with setting the car up, that either driver was finding it difficult, but one weekend one driver works, the other works, another driver works. Lewis has generally got the upper hand. Maybe they thought, okay, well, look, we'll swap the chassis over just to confirm that it isn't a chassis problem. And if it is a chassis problem, then we know we've got to do something about it, like turn the attention back to this year's car and try and develop this year's car if we're going to have any chance of winning the championship. So that would be my best guess. Go ahead.
No,
Fabio, you're about to interrupt me. No, Simons is bullshitting again.
No. Man, I agree with you. That turns out to be a driver problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Both drivers is what I'm saying. It's they can't do anything about that because they can't replace both drivers. But now they know at least that it isn't the chassis.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, they know that it probably is the chassis because it's not the drivers. Right. The drivers are still having the same problems.
I'm glad to see that Mercedes has got that much money to waste, because in order to prove that point, they managed to go for the most expensive possible route ever, which is, yeah, good for them.
Well, what do you mean? It's not the most expensive. There's nothing they can do. They can't change the chassis halfway through the year because they can't get it homologated.
Okay, let me think about it. Would have been a fastest way and a better way to they might have swapped the drivers, might have swapped the cars entirely. Oh yeah, that would have been cheaper, isn't it?
Yeah, but they take the cars apart every race anyway, don't they? They don't ship them whole.
Well, changing the chassis is a very long and expensive, thing to do. It's not something that happens, overnight.
Okay.
So.
Okay, I'm not sure. I thought they from flyaway races they pretty much deconstructed the whole car anyway. They left the engines on if they were going to leave the engine on, but of course they changed the engines last race anyway. So yeah, actually, good point. Actually, yeah, this is the most expensive way.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
But
okay.
yeah, but it's Toto Wolff. I'm sure that. Yes, there's good reasons.
I don't know. I don't know. It did seem strange at the time when I heard it, and all I could think about was the year that they changed the engineers. Between Rosberg and Lewis, right? And I was thinking, hang on a minute, this really pissed Lewis off last time. Yeah. So were they just trying to piss Lewis off again or something? I don't know. He lost the championship last time they pissed him off like this. So
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's strange. That's strange. Anyway. Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know, but yeah, it's those things that British teams do, or is it German teams? I can't.
No, that when it's something like that, that's a German team
That's
problem.
German.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Fair enough. I'm with you.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, of course, of course.
Mercedes is
Go ahead.
losing the championship, so there
Both
might be something
championships,
going
yeah.
on in the background, because this is not what they've been used to for the past few years. So,
Mm.
and they've lost a couple of people to Red Bull. So
Yeah.
who knows
Yeah, engine
what?
people.
Yeah,
Heard that.
who knows what is going on in the background?
Yeah, and it's funny in that same time that suddenly Red Bull's engine has improved.
Sorry, talking about people moving. Before I forget, there is a very interesting move which is going to happen next year. I think it's been it has already been signed, but there is a very good engineer which is going to be the main race engineer in Aston Martin next year. It's a youngish engineer named I think it's Andrea or Luca. Well, the surname, the family name is Furbato, and he's a very competent and really good one. So look for that guy. He's gonna be bringing some. It's gonna stepping up Aston Martin team at least next year.
Okay, I mean they've had some strange results as well. Something's not right as well. So I don't know what it is specifically about this year's cars. But all that hullabaloo about rake and stuff, I think, is coming home to roost. And Mercedes clearly went the wrong way, and as such, Racing Point and now Aston Martin have had to follow them. So I think they need something else to happen, because they should have been up there in fourth place, right? And as it is, they're not. They're languishing down in sixth place or something, maybe. So, so there's some strange stuff going on.
Anyway,
Okay. Indeed. Well done for still sitting out in the garden. It must be a lovely evening over there in Italy. Peter, anything else to finish up with before I finish?
No, I'm just looking forward to the next couple of races, because this is.
Oh yeah,
Also,
good point.
We've got one this week and the week after, I think. So.
This is a triple header.
Yeah.
And we're in Red Bull. We're in Red Bull circuit. So Austria A1 ring. Although that don't hold out too much hopes. Again, this is another Mercedes dominated circuit, because it is a power circuit, and so therefore we can expect a Red Bull win. I feel
it's one of the shittiest circuits ever.
Oh no! I'm not so down on this circuit, actually, to be honest, because the straights aren't quite so long.
There are only two good things coming out from next races. The first one is that so the first race will see, I think, 15,000 people getting in on the on the stands, and
that 15,000 is 15,000 good news. The bad news, they're Austrians. Go ahead.
Yes, and the second race is going to be open, so there's going to be even more. And there's going to be the orange stand, so just to give Max a little bit more boost. The other thing is that next Saturday next Saturday the 26th is going to be my birthday, so I will watch the race. I'm going to be a year older.
Yay! 22 at last.
22, yeah. I can drink. So
So I've got a note.
Just in time for his IPA.
I've got a note on that, because last year I had the best birthday present ever, because on my birthday the Dutch Grand Prix would be back. And nice. as we all know, that never happened. So
yeah.
But
is it still up in the air? I believe as well. They still haven't given it the okay for fans. So.
No.
Is that right?
The Dutch Grand Prix is going to be held this year, and it's going to be with audience as well, and that's on September 5th, I think. So
that's correct. September the 5th.
That's one that I'm looking forward to.
Okay. Yeah. Likewise. I mean, I have to say I've slagged Zandvoort off in the past many times. But maybe with the slight changes that they've made to the circuit and the banking, particularly around the final corner, maybe
Listen,
that will give some chances for overtaking. But
it can't be worse than than Bahrain or Hungary. So fuck it.
but why? I mean, just why? And there's a new circuit, isn't there, being built somewhere? Where is it in I can't remember where it's being built, but
I don't know. Is Tilke involved in that circuit too?
no, Tilke not directly. His company is.
Oh, fuck off, then.
Yeah,
Okay.
seriously,
Okay.
seriously. So
Okay.
that's a fun thing. I think it's in America somewhere, like
Yeah,
Miami
of course.
or wherever it is. I can't remember, but
It has to be in America because
yeah.
they
But
won't
isn't
make
Miami
another
going to
circuit in
be
Europe for if it cries. So,
Kota turned out all right, apart from the massive bump that's
yeah,
developing.
yeah.
Yeah.
But isn't
Although,
Miami going to be a street race?
Yes.
I thought
yes.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that I did read something. And I'm not sure. I always keep mixing those up. That they're going to change the circuit in Bahrain to make it more attractive.
Well, I mean, they're talking about having a double header there if another one drops out. Let me see. I can't see where Bahrain is. Oh, we've had the Bahrain already, haven't we?
Yeah.
no,
Is that right? Yeah, we've had
then
Bahrain.
What's
So they were talking about if there's another one around October, which is yet to be announced. So perhaps that's it. And then if Zandvoort drops out, because I still think there's some question marks over that one, then they're talking about going back to Bahrain at some point to make up the races.
from what I've heard, Zandvoort is confirmed now. It's going to be held and it's going to be open to the audience because all of the mask mandate went down for the most part here. So I think we're good for the Dutch Grand
Yeah,
Prix.
I think it wasn't about the people getting in necessarily. I think it was about the restrictions that the F1 teams would be put under if they came to Zandvoort. So they were talking about a 2-week quarantine, which is not acceptable for the Formula One teams. So that was the question mark. But I should think it'll go ahead because they've been putting it off for a couple of years. So there'll be a lot of political pressure.
The part here in Holland was that if they couldn't have it open to the public, then they wouldn't do a race. And at least that part,
that's right. Yeah,
that part is solved right now. So
it's taken care of. Yeah, but it may be taken care of at the expense of the other side, which is the quarantine that the F1 teams have to go through to get into Holland, and so that might be a problem. But again, I don't know. We've got plenty of time before then for it to sort out, and that's some of the issue as well. So it depends on what the policies are of the Dutch government. And as I say, there'll be a lot of political pressure to get the teams in and out, even if they have to isolate, at the circuit itself.
If you ask any Dutch person, they will say that if people come over from Britain, it's best to put them in quarantine for a little bit.
Yeah,
just because they're British.
I can understand that. Yeah, I know. But then on the other hand, it's the same with the other way around. The British people are going. If we go to Holland, then the chances are we'll have to take 2 weeks to recover from all of the good dope you get over there.
Yeah.
So it swings and roundabouts.
It's a thing.
Okay. So 1 week's time, we will be back in 1 week's time, having listened to the, what do they call it, the Styrian or something like that Grand Prix. Having watched that, so it's the first of a double header at A1 Ring, and I think it was quite a dramatic race. I know it was a slow burner, but at the end we got a fantastic overtake towards the end, or the lap before last. And again, just to say that, I thought McLaren drove really well to come through and prove their car, and prove for me how Mercedes fucked up by not having a low enough downforce setting and enough speed on the straights, because I think that would have dramatically changed the race. Although, as I say, that would have probably led to them making some strategy decisions before the race, which, as we're finding out, they're loath to do. So Boo,
What?
Mercedes, please don't make those mistakes again. Be proactive and not reactive. Otherwise,
I
Red
find it
Bull are
funny
going to
that
do the same every time. Go ahead.
I find it funny that Bottas did get a little joke in during the race regarding your desire for alcohol, because he did uh, do a commercial for German beer, actually.
Did he really?
Yeah, fucking hell.
Okay. That's a German beer, is it?
That's a German beer.
Oh my god. Yeah. I'm dumbfounded. I'm going to leave this week completely dumbfounded. So, thank you very much, both of you. Ciao, Peter. Ciao, Abio.
Ciao, ciao.
And I think I'm the one that has to turn the stream off. Is that right?
Yeah, well, should we do an outro first and then turn
Yeah,
the
you could do your outro while I'm getting
Okay.
the end
So-
of stream ready. Although I can't remember how to do the end of stream. Where do I have to? Oh yeah, I
Uh,
think I know how I have to go.
Okay.
Go ahead then.
See you next
Thank
week.
you everybody for attending. Thank you for the likes and stuff, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.